Chapter 8. Unloading the plug-in pistol. Recruit and train your own people instead of depending on others. There's a devastating weapon which can misfire, injuring potential leaders in our industry. This little weapon can also backfire on new distributors, crippling and sometimes destroying their ability to recruit and train long-distance prospects. Both of us fired this weapon in our first year as new network marketers, and it is discharged daily by new people in MLM organizations all over the world. We call it the plug-in pistol. Here's how it works. The phone rings. It's one of your distributors who tells you very enthusiastically that she has a major, well-connected prospect in another state who is so credible he will make billions of dollars for everyone in her upline. Once those remarks are uttered, the pistol is fired.
So I need to plug him into someone in that city. Do you have a leader there whom you can recommend?
Even more complex is the foreign prospect due to the language barrier.
We just signed up a distributor in Tokyo, and he's so excited. What kind of training meetings do we have going on in that part of the world? We want to get him plugged in right away.
The problem with trying to plug in people in this way is quite simple. It seldom works and more often backfires, negatively affecting your new distributors and often creating a permanent obstacle to their success. Success in network marketing is tied to our ability to prospect, recruit, and train, and teach others to do the same. No distributors have ever become successful through a welfare mentality of having others do everything for them. There are many examples from which to draw, and in this chapter we'll prepare you for each of the situations you are likely to face. Plugging into a long-distance training meeting. In long-distance sponsoring, network marketers commonly sign up new distributors and send them to whatever training session is going on in that particular locale. Let us say this right up front before we say anything else. Most network marketers use this technique. Why? Because frankly they don't know what else to do, and it's the easiest way to handle the situation. It generally has a certain ambience of professionalism, and it can get people started. So if you get shot by one of the long-distance sponsoring bullets, you may be only mildly hurt. But beware, you may also be seriously wounded and not even know it yourself, and it can be fatal to your MLM career. Here's the situation. Training is a very personal and critical step in getting your new associate started in the business. As we have written repeatedly, there are many ways to do this business, but consistency is essential to success. Changing systems frequently can be deadly for the unseasoned and even the seasoned network marketer. If you intend to be a responsible, supportive upline associate to your new distributor, then you want to have a strong hand in teaching that person how to get started. This creates a mentality of self-sufficiency that you want to spread throughout your organization. If you leave it to chance, or worse, plug your new protege into whatever training is close by, then you are taking a serious risk. You may be setting up your new distributor for a welfare mentality. Confusion often sets in about which system to use. You have mentioned to your new associate the importance of doing in-home meetings, but the local trainers you've plugged him or her into suggest that prospects be brought to their weekly hotel meeting. Even though you have stressed the importance of personal interaction with your potential business partners, at the local training meeting your new associate hears about a great new recruiting video that can be sent out to prospects, thereby avoiding any personal rejection. The worst thing you can do to new associates is plug them into a myriad of diverse systems that will leave them floundering. So if you are convinced that systems do in fact matter, then please heed this advice. Be careful when you select a leader or group for your new frontline associates. Be as picky about their training as you would be about daycare for your own child. In our business, how your new recruits are trained is crucial to their success. But just as the best of all possible solutions, if the choice is available to you, is to stay at home and raise your own child, the very best method for taking your valued frontline associates from childhood to adulthood in the network distribution industry is to do it yourself. And remember, duplication is the name of the game. If you send your new recruits to other meetings, so will they. If you personally train your recruits, so will they. Recently, our own company has chosen to produce its own training materials and conduct its own leadership training conferences because of intense regulatory pressure. We are in the minority in strongly objecting to this policy change. In our opinion, it is akin to socialized child care. If you have children, imagine how you would feel if the government decided that all parents are mandated to send their children to public daycare centers of the government's choosing. All children might be raised by the philosophy of those in power. It is the antithesis to American democracy and of freedom of choice. We are firmly against any company-imposed training of our valued new associates in business, unless that training was created and approved by field leaders. If MLM corporate executives knew how to succeed in this business, they'd be at home with their families, earning 10 times their salaries, not in meetings creating sales tools they've never used themselves. Having them design our training program gives meaning to that old saying, "Those who can, do, and those who can't, teach." But at the same time, we understand why the company has taken this position. The Federal Trade Commission is taking a very hard line with certain well-established MLM companies. If you are with a newer company, less than 5 years old, brace yourself. If you hit the big time in this industry, your turn will come. The FTC is poring over every little detail in the corporate brochures, catalogs, and field-produced training manuals. And this government bureaucracy is holding the company ultimately responsible for the content of these publications. In response, MLM companies have decided to take the easy way out. They are reclaiming the right to produce training materials so that they can maintain control over all content to avoid lawsuits, and that leads them to also exert authority over all training procedures. While we understand the reason for their knee-jerk reaction to federal scrutiny, that still doesn't make it right, in our opinion. We don't believe in company-imposed training systems any more than we support mandatory daycare. And we don't accept the erroneous notion that just any citywide training will do for our new distributors, especially during their formative first year in the business. The potential problems are as threatening as the inherent challenges in not being selective about the care of your own children. There are thousands of horror stories about sending a new recruit to a local training meeting held in another city. Mark recalls a personal story of his own. In 1986, he plugged his cousin Steve from his hometown into a local meeting because a distributor who was quite successful was moderating it. What follows is Steve's humorous account of that particular evening. "I was turned on about the business because I was tired of practicing medicine and figured my career was taking me nowhere. When Mark sent me a newspaper clipping of him jumping over his tennis net after a game in his backyard, and I knew he had been broke just 6 months earlier, I got very excited. He sent me the information. I filled out an agreement and then called him back for training. He said that since a local doctor was conducting a Saturday training session, I should attend his meeting. I'll admit the fact that another MD was involved helped me shake my professional pride issue. After all, why should a 35-year-old successful doctor be signing up in MLM? Yet I rationalized that this was no different than an AA meeting in that it might be embarrassing at first, but, after all, everyone was there for the same reason. During the drive to the meeting, I began to think about all the interesting entrepreneurs and business experts I would undoubtedly meet. When I first walked in the door, my suspicions were confirmed. My negative suspicions, that is. A patient for whom I had recently performed a medical procedure that very week approached me and jokingly said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Good God, Doc, after what you charge for minor surgery, surely you don't need a part-time job in a pyramid deal." I was mortified and turned 10 shades of red as I noticed a good 10 or 15 people had heard the remark and were now staring at me. I laughed off the comment, shook his hand, then moved away, quickly isolating myself from him and that group by selecting an empty chair on the other side of the room. The lady I sat next to was quite well dressed and looked like a solid citizen.
So I introduced myself and made a little small talk. She confided in me that she, too, had just signed up under another couple out of town and was here at a training meeting for the first time. Then she began telling me that her former massage therapist had actually sent her to the meeting. What excited her the most was that she had been doing what she called a treasure map for wealth, which, she explained to me, was cutting pictures of material objects out of magazines and pasting them on a canvas. Twice a day, she told me, as I loosened my collar and glanced around, hoping no one was listening to this conversation, she sat down by her pictures, chanted the word Hugh, then envisioned unexpected income falling into her lap. It wasn't until she told me that, in a channeling session, her archangel Michael informed her in ancient Aramaic that she should attend this meeting, that I walked out, never again to attend an MLM meeting. We've heard tales much worse than this one, so listen to us carefully. When distributors in your organization call and ask if you have any leaders in Michigan or Florida or Texas whom they can plug a new person into for training and support, tell them no. This isn't a business in which you merely sign them up and plug them in. Associates should be supported long distance until they are experienced and self-sufficient by utilizing proven training materials. Only after they are solidly established can they go to other leaders' meetings for additional support and company bonding. But it will take some time before they're established. Always remember the Yarnells' 81st law. Whenever you send a credible person to an out-of-town meeting, he or she will invariably pick a seat next to someone whom God planted on this earth to demonstrate that not all the squirrels are in the trees. On that fact you may depend. If you choose to send a new associate to another leader's meeting, do so by checking it out thoroughly and asking for referrals about the quality and content of the training. Don't just blindly send someone there, taking the path of least resistance. You can't expect someone with no vested interest in your downline to give your associates the same kind of attention that you would provide them. Each leader's primary responsibility is to train and support those on whom he is paid in his own line. Even the most extraordinary leaders may not mind including your associates in their meetings, but they are not likely to go the extra mile for them. Most are stretched to the limit just trying to build their own lines and support their own associates. Yours will certainly go by the wayside. By simply plugging prospects into an existing meeting, you are offering them mediocre support at best during the critical time of getting started in our business. Do your own training. So what should you do if you are the type of parent who, given the choice, would be inclined to stay at home or run a business from home so that you could raise your own children? You will probably have the same instincts about supporting the children in your downline. Let's assume that you agree with us that training should be a simple, easily duplicated system that can actually be reduced to a one-page training outline. Let's also assume that you have a new person who just signed up on your front line in another state. Begin by faxing him or her a copy of your one-page system. Ask your new associate to look it over carefully and offer to answer any questions in the next day or two. At the appointed time, make the call so you can answer any questions. Let him or her know the source and credibility of your system. Because you need to get it out of the way right up front, ask if he or she has any objections to the system. Conclude the discussion by letting the new associate know how avidly you believe in this system and that, if he or she wants your support in business, any deviation from this system is not allowed. Get your new associate to fully commit to your system. The next step is to have your long-distance associates purchase their introductory kit and product starter package directly from the company, as opposed to buying their products from us, as we generally do locally. At that time, if the option is open to you, have them purchase a short manual, less than 40 pages, put together by a leader whose system you are using, that teaches a simple, no-brainer way to do this business. Such a manual should be easily duplicated, able to be reduced to a one-page outline that explains a system that anyone from any walk of life can learn, implement, and teach.
After your long-distance associates have started using the products and have read their short manual, arrange another telephone discussion, this time to target those issues that are the most critical in your system. Sometimes your new distributors will quit after the purchase of their first product package and before they complete their assignments. A certain amount of quick in-and-out attrition is normal in our business. But for those who continue on with you, recommend one or two of your most powerful motivational tools to help them build their business. These are the people with whom you will forge a close personal bond and create a lifetime business partnership. For these serious business builders, we then suggest that they purchase a complete training manual. We have invested years researching and writing the Encyclopedia of Network Marketing to guide serious network marketers to success. Feel free to use it if your own upline mentors have not already written something similar. We also suggest a weekly coaching session over the phone between you and all serious long-distance frontline members of your group. Insist that they initiate the session using the magic words, "You call me." When and if they do, give them your unwavering support. If they don't call, move on to the next person. Be sure that their style of approach and their numbers are reviewed during this weekly telephone meeting. Discuss how many prospects they approached that week, how many audiovisual packages they gave out, how many appointments they set, how many people to whom they actually made a presentation, and finally, how many they sponsored. Encourage them whenever their style of approach and their numbers are inordinately low. Be a mentor and lead by example. Help them close their serious prospects. Give constructive criticism about how your new associates might develop on more personal levels. When coaching downline distributors, don't make the mistake of telling them what they did wrong. Doing this only reinforces the mistake and puts them into a downward spiral. Have you ever figured out how to do a don't? When you want to assist associates in changing, suggest what you want them to do right. Quite often the obstacles to overcome are within a person. If your associate is struggling with lack of confidence, suggest that she ask herself, "But what if I could?" Possibility thinking expands consciousness, increases self-esteem, and furthers the chances for success. The best coaches are those who remind people of their inherent ability. Just trying harder seldom produces results. In short, train your people as leaders and teach them to do the same with their people. Give everyone the opportunity to emerge as a leader. And you know the SW rule. Some will, some won't. So what? Because someone else is always waiting. Those who don't become leaders will gravitate toward codependency at the citywide meeting, if it exists in their locale. That's your backup plan. Maybe, just maybe, the archangel will show up and lead them back home. The value of a simple training system. Teaching a simple system is a good start toward taking charge of the leadership of your own organization. If you begin your leaders on the right track and prove it can create success for them, you have a good chance that they, in turn, will stick with the same program and pass it on. The following is an example of our one-page training. If you like it, adapt it for your own personal use. A good training system flows in such a way that it can be duplicated by the least experienced in your organization. As you can see from the MLM flowchart following the Yarnell Success Training System, it comes full circle, taking your new associates through the process and then teaching them to do the same. The Yarnell Success Training System. Simplicity is evidence of the most advanced teachings. Dr. Emil Cady. The Guidelines. 1. Commit to this proven training system for 1 year or until you reach your financial goal. Because it is essential that you stay on one proven track, we encourage you not to expose yourself to events that teach or promote other systems. 2. Begin by carefully selecting and approaching those with whom you would most enjoy creating a lifetime business partnership, and teach those people who join you to do the same. 3. As you gradually move into the cold market, Place more emphasis on the number of people that you approach. Focus on the width of your front line rather than the depth. However, support everyone who asks for your help as though they were frontline. 4. Following in-home presentations or long-distance sign-ups, encourage serious people to phone an upline leader. 5. In order to stay focused, we discourage you from creating your own training materials. Rely exclusively on this proven system for the first year or until you reach your financial goal. 6. Build a customer base among your family and neighbors prior to creating a downline. 7. Focus all of your efforts on building one powerful organization, and never try to build 2 or more lines in different companies. 8. Success depends on believing and investing in yourself. Therefore, never loan money or products to new distributors. 9. Be loyal to your business. Use your own products or services in lieu of other inferior brands. 10. Stay focused on the end result and take pride in your accomplishments along the way. Do not allow rejections, dropouts, dream stealers, and discouragements to deter you from your vision. You are 100% in control of your own mindset and therefore your own future. The system. 1. Attend first step training with your sponsor, held once a week as a group meeting. 2. Fill out an application form. Set up a temporary account and place a product order. 3. Just get 10 personal customers as soon as possible. Having received a product starter package, share your enthusiasm based on personal use and results. 4. Establish written goals and visualize them as already accomplished. Stay focused on the end result and realize that your business plan will be the means to this end. 5. Begin making your warm market list of 2,000 names, prioritizing your top 25 preferred business partners. Set up a card file system by which prospects can be reapproached every 6 months. 6. Get back to your sponsor for a personal strategy session and create a specific plan of action based on your goals. 7. Approach people with the financial security and time freedom possible in our business. Call on your top 25 people, telling them how much you would enjoy being business partners. Remember, it is your enthusiasm that will attract people to your organization. Meet your prospecting goals every day. 8. Provide your prospects with an audiovisual package, introducing them to the timing, trends, advantages, and excitement of our industry. 9. Next, conduct in-home presentations with 4 to 8 prospects at each meeting, all invited from your warm market list, or referrals that come from them. Your upline will be in attendance at your first 2 or 3 meetings. A. Hand out articles, reprints, etc. to establish the credibility of the industry. B. Tell your story, in 5 minutes' time, and the story of one of your upline associates who is already successful. C. Explain the positioning and strength of your company. Explain why you chose this one over others. D. Give personal testimonials about the products along with catalog and/or samples for those interested. E. Play a recruiting video that includes company and product info and a simplified compensation plan explanation. Follow it with the board illustrations. Explain challenges most workers face today. 40-year plan/linear income. Explain 5 by 5 by 5 exponential growth allowing for 75% attrition. Explain roll-up factor when people quit. F. Answer any questions. Give series prospects the phone numbers of key upline associates and encourage them to call or arrange a 3-way call if they have questions. G. Hand out business overview and close with 3 reasons to join. 1. Wholesale buyer. 2. business tax advantages and travel write-offs. 3. Creation of a lifestyle with wealth and independence. H. Invite prospects to next Saturday's training session. 10. Ask for a commitment. Sign up as a business builder, a retailing distributor, or a wholesale buyer. Alternatively, they may choose to become a customer or, at the very least, give you a referral. 11. Name the product package and list the exact training materials you wish new associates to purchase. List phone numbers showing where to order. 12. Conduct first-step training once a week for new distributors. Set up a personal strategy session for distributors who have completed the assignments, purchased products, set goals in writing, started developing their list, and building their customer base. The results: dramatic income, absolute time freedom, and the satisfaction of knowing you have helped others to create the same. MLM Flowchart. Pre-approach phone call. Opportunity AV package. Business presentation. Three-way or direct closing call. Commitment to sponsor. Product starter package. First step training. Assignments, customers, goals, and list. Private strategy session. Plugging into a long-distance recruiting meeting. If sending someone to a long-distance training session is questionable, entrusting a valuable prospect to someone else's recruiting meeting without your presence is pure lunacy. It makes about as much sense to us as sending your secretary to an adoption agency to pick out a child for you and your spouse. We wouldn't even send someone else to pick out a pet dog or cat. Why would anyone leave a highly regarded business associate in the care of a total stranger at some randomly selected meeting? When it comes to introducing a prospect to our business, we have one fundamental and unwavering belief. Network marketing should be presented in a small group in a private setting. To do otherwise is to defy the very nature of networking. It is, after all, a business of friends telling friends, not a formal production with lights, cameras, slideshows, and action. If you are introducing your network marketing company to a long-distance prospect, we suggest that you begin with as much personal involvement as is humanly possible, from a distance. Go into this knowing that long-distance recruiting is more expensive than local recruiting. It involves packages, long-distance telephone calls, postage, and more calls. Don't even begin unless you can afford the cost. In your pre-approach phone call, having carefully selected those you wish to contact, share your excitement about the business and the prospect of working together. Send your prospect an audio tape, videotape, or multimedia package that explains, in the simplest way possible, your excitement about the network marketing industry, your company, your product line, and your organization. Look over your package and its presentation, imagining how you would feel all over again if you were the one receiving it. Does it really answer all the questions you had then? Send out these materials only to those who indicate a genuine interest in learning more about network marketing. And don't mail out a greater quantity than you can follow up and support. In all, it's going to take at least 2 one-hour long-distance calls. Use your first phone conversation to tell them the story of how and why you became involved. Get a commitment in advance of a time you can call to discuss the business after they have received the package and had time to look at it. Getting someone to look at your videotape or listen to your audio tape can be a real challenge. That is why we use this method only for select long-distance prospects, or an occasional local prospect whom you are unable to get to your presentation any other way. Your closing ratio with long-distance prospecting will be less than face-to-face presentations. Your follow-up phone call becomes a mini presentation. Be sure to highlight the critical aspects of the business, the money to be made, the simplicity of your system for building this type of business, and how you will work closely with them to teach them, step by step, exactly how to succeed. Answer their questions and listen carefully for objections. Use upline support to close your serious prospects. Ask your prospects to call one of your business associates who has more experience and success than you. This can be done either by a direct or three-way call. Usually, more than one phone call is required to progress to the closing point. Now, having made a long-distance presentation through your package and calls, on a personal basis with upline support, you are ready to sign them up. Once you have done so, you may choose to have them attend a local recruiting meeting where a respected leader in your company is speaking. As suggested earlier, you need to carefully select the group and its speakers before encouraging your prospect to attend. Under no circumstances should you allow your prospect to attend the training meeting that follows the recruiting meeting unless the training leader is a well-regarded member of your upline or a mentor whose system you are following. If your prospect is still holding back from a commitment because of some objection, you have a serious decision to make. Dispatching your prospect to an opportunity meeting in another city is akin to sending your children to New York City unaccompanied. However, if you are unable to close your prospect in any other way, it may be worth the risk at this point. It is a decision you should make carefully. If you choose to follow this plan, do so if and only if the loyalty is securely established between the two of you. The inherent ethics of network marketing comes from allegiance to the person who thought enough of you to first introduce you to the business. Send your prospect to the meeting with the caution that it is merely a supplemental support to the system you will be using. Call your prospects the moment they arrive home, or at the latest, the very next morning, to get a pulse reading on their reaction to the meeting, the speaker, the guests, and the presentation. Don't assume that all is well once you have discharged the plug-in pistol, that is, once you have sent your potential business associate to a local meeting. You should feel reasonably concerned. You can breathe a little easier once you have followed up with your prospect and received a commitment to follow your system, which occurs about 20% of the time. Plugging into a local recruiting meeting. Even though we don't believe it is effective, we understand why networkers send new associates to recruiting or training meetings in other cities before having personally worked with them. But why on earth would anyone send their valued prospects to another leader's meeting within their own city for their very first exposure to network marketing? It doesn't make sense when, with a simple system, you are perfectly capable of getting them started on the right track yourself. To succeed, you need to share your knowledge with your new associates and teach each of them to do the same. Hotel meetings should be treated only as a backup, a reinforcement, the second part of a 1-2 punch. But no new prospects should have their very first exposure to network distribution in a large, formal setting. Peter Hirsch, author of Living with Passion, recalls his introduction to our industry. My MLM nightmare started during my first business briefing. A friend picked me up to take me to a hotel meeting, which is now, after almost 8 years in the business, something I'm very much against. The immediate impression that hit me smack in the face was, if I join this company, I'm no longer entitled to wear natural fibers. I guess the people running the meeting were trying to give people the feeling that, if we can do it, you can too. But that's not the feeling I got. What I sensed was, nobody in this room knows how to speak or dress, and they probably can't read. I don't want to be with these people. I don't want to be like these people. Help! Get me out of here. I stayed because I didn't have my own car. By the way, that's not a justification for taking guests in your car. The answer is to not have hotel meetings, and whenever you have a business presentation, make it good. Make it so that your guests will want to stay without being held hostage. When my friend dropped me off at my house, he gave me a product to try. I was tired of arguing, so I just took it. It was a water filter that looked like a thermos. The evening was so awful that I couldn't fathom why anyone would join the company. I imagined someone sitting at the kitchen table with a water filter on his right side and a gun on his left, saying to himself, "Before I go for the gun, I may as well try this water filter thing." 1 week later, I joined the company. Why? 2 reasons. First, the product was very good. I liked it, and I saw a need for it.
Second, desperation. I hated what I was doing for a living. I was a practicing attorney, and saw MLM as a way out. In my first month, my organization moved close to $100,000 in wholesale products. Life looked grand. You see, I knew plenty of other attorneys who were also miserable. I was on my way to a lifestyle of the rich and famous. Then the real nightmare began. My second check was lower than my first. My third check was lower than my second. What was happening? They never said at the meeting that this could occur. The trend continued, and soon I had nothing left. The crash was devastating. Then it hit me. I had to actually learn this business. I had to learn MLM. In my first week with that company, I was taught the ancient MLM art of front-end loading. I now realize that there is nothing worse in network marketing, from both a legal and ethical perspective, than suggesting that people purchase thousands of dollars of product that they obviously don't need and likely won't sell. Peter eventually left that company and learned to do the business, like us, in small group settings, personally making his own presentations and doing his own training meetings. What he learned in the process was not to worry about the first order. From hard experience, he shares the belief with us that real volume, as opposed to promotional volume, is the way to build a solid organization. If you build your business or customers on smaller orders, you will always have a business. If you build your business based on front-end loading, it won't last. Instead, you'll end up in the NFL. No friends left. Peter Hirsch is one of the rare people who walks the talk. He not only wrote the book, but everything he does is about living with passion. How much passion does it take to walk away from your company when you are the top distributor earning several times more than you've ever earned in your life because you don't agree with its practices? Peter knows because he did. He has become a close friend whom we greatly admire as one of the most ethical and conscientious young men in network marketing. Issues of integrity. Of course, there are many more practical reasons for avoiding plugging quality prospects into meetings, whether in your own city or others, if you cannot participate. Some time ago, we were speakers at a meeting where a couple set up a table in the front reception area in order to register all the attendees. When the meeting began, they simply walked off with the list and the registration money. Later, they began calling those people who were on the registration list. What we discovered was unbelievable. They were actually leaders in a totally different company who used this same deception on more than one occasion to steal prospects from other distributors. That's how insane things can become at large meetings. But let's talk about a much more insidious form of theft, namely prospects being stolen by leaders from one's own company. Not only does this happen, but all too frequently it's perpetrated by those leaders who are at the very top of companies. Sometimes it happens with the full knowledge and blessing of corporate owners and staff, though they never dare admit it. Peter Hirsch called us not too many months ago in a despondent mood and asked if we could get together and spend the weekend. Because we're great friends, of course we invited him over. This young star was a top earner in his company, responsible for recruiting and training a very large organization. We found out that weekend that the corporate leaders allowed another leader, who was given preferential treatment by the company, to steal an entire downline from him. He came to tell us that he had quit and walked away from an income of $30,000 a month. That takes courage, more than most of us have. Fortunately, this is not a common occurrence among company leaders, but it does happen. We've seen company owners themselves face many ethical dilemmas in network marketing. Some companies finally reach the big money only after sacrificing some or all of their reputation in the process. Other companies have insisted on high ethical standards, but have not been able to pull in the big money. Some try to make money from the sale of required, ongoing support materials, audio tapes, videotapes, and printed manuals, instead of from the sale of actual products. We have seen companies charge many times the actual value of a so-called training program and try to pay the downline from these revenues,
something that, when investigated, we believe would never pass FTC standards. Like so many of you, we are extremely idealistic in our expectations concerning the network marketing industry. When we first became involved, the industry had a rather poor public image. But we knew the truth. This was a clean, solid industry, having as its preeminent purpose the sale of massive quantities of quality products and services by word of mouth, while paying network distributors what they are truly worth. That's what enables us all to lead quality lives. With the ongoing development of the industry, some of that idealism has been compromised. As we look at various companies emerging today, we see no network marketing company who has made it to the big money, that is, to $500 million in annual sales or more, and not compromised something in the process. No company is in a position to cast the first stone at any other company. However, the ethical lapses in network marketing pale in comparison to traditional business. Last year, for example, the biggest bank in Japan was caught cheating and forced to pay $2 million in fines to Americans. In 1995, 7 CEOs of the largest tobacco companies stood in front of a Senate investigative committee with their right hand in the air and swore that tobacco is no more addictive than marshmallows and contains no booster additives. 2 years later, those same corporate heads settled all future lawsuits for $2 billion, with the proviso that they will never again advertise their products. Recently, we saw a Winston billboard at one of the main intersections in our town stating, "We've gone naked and taken out all the additives. No bull." How proud would you be to be involved in that industry? This is our message to MLM newcomers. Take pride in our industry and select your company based on realistic expectations. Select the one that has the very best record based on your values. But we don't believe any company in existence today would receive a check mark in every column. Top money earners, complete harmony among field distributors, respected corporate leaders, level playing field, high ethical standards, perfectly balanced front-end and back-end compensation plan, quality products that are in demand and competitively priced, the potential for longevity, a globally seamless marketing plan, and no more than average attrition. Perhaps one day a company will come along that can uphold the highest ethical standards and break all sales records as well. But even if that never happens, network marketing companies still ethically outpace the majority of traditional corporations worldwide. There is really no comparison. With the maturation of network marketing comes the loss of innocence. Those companies that last more than 5 years have a generally favorable record for high standards. Unfortunately, even in those companies, there is a growing number of distributors who are quite unscrupulous. Given the nature of our industry, unethical behavior can only be controlled by the individual distributors themselves. We can set standards on whom we invite to join our organizations, or by corporate leaders who have the courage to terminate those who clearly violate company policies. If this problem is not dealt with in the early stages, and the wayward networker is allowed to continue operating unethically, there comes a point of no return. Eventually, an unethical distributor will become too big and too powerful to eliminate without bringing harm to the company, and, for that matter, to the entire industry. We can preserve the integrity of our industry by only affiliating with those companies that demonstrate the will to strictly enforce policies devoid of favoritism or selfish greed, as well as by screening new associates in our recruiting, selection, and training process. Simply put, select a company that isn't afraid to terminate a big hitter who breaks the rules. Invite principled people whom you trust into your organization, and train them to do the business ethically. Fear of loss. Get ready for a scary fact. Whenever you suggest that anyone in your organization attend a meeting in another town with no supervision, you must be prepared, and maybe even expect, to lose that distributor to another leader. Here's an example of how it might happen. Bob has never been involved in network marketing and doesn't understand the simplicity of our industry. His friend Steve has heard about a meeting in Bob's town that is conducted weekly by a local leader. So before Bob is ever enrolled, he is plugged into the local meeting. Of course, when he arrives on his own and explains he's not yet signed up, some local leaders will be all too pleased to help out. Often they will first befriend Bob and then, during the course of the evening, attempt to persuade him that he should set aside his allegiance to the distributor who first introduced him to this business and sign up with them instead. They eventually lure him with promises of having special ties to their company, or suggestions that he cannot be successful without local support. Why sign up under an acquaintance 500 miles away when he can sign up here at home under a sponsor who can more adequately support him? Though it's a lie, Bob doesn't recognize it, nor does Bob yet understand the structural integrity of our industry. The need for local support is a myth. Were that not so, Bob would be limited in the development of his business to just his own area, with no potential for expansion. On the contrary, the secret to building a successful business is to become the leader of your own organization, never dependent on others for extended local support. The exponential growth of a network marketing organization lies in the distributor's ability to teach others an easily duplicated system for sponsoring and being sponsored anywhere in the world. So Bob shouldn't try to bypass Steve, the person who introduced him to the business. Although Steve may be inexperienced and distant, somewhere above him is a person in his upline with the necessary power, income, and experience to work with him and teach him proven techniques for succeeding in this business. But not realizing that, Bob very innocently signs up under the local group and decides to call Steve in a couple of weeks and break the news to him gently. There's no telling how many thousands of distributors have quit our business after plugging in leads to meetings in other cities only to have their prospects stolen by an unscrupulous leader. Of course, this could never happen if new distributors were taught not to entrust prospects in other cities to meetings until they've been signed up and trained. Even then, it isn't necessary. In our opinion, the entire notion of local support and weekly hand-holding meetings is not the way to build a successful organization. Both of us were sponsored by out-of-town leaders and then trained and supported by telephone. In fact, Mark didn't meet his mentor, Richard Call, until Mark was earning over $15,000 a month. The first time he called Richard, he was given a system over the telephone, and he went out and followed it. Even though it was Mark's first participation in networking, he learned enough in that phone conversation to earn serious money after just 4 months in our company. International recruiting. There's a real risk of collapse of the structural integrity intrinsic to network marketing in foreign markets. Breach of loyalty between you and your group, however promising in a newly launched market, is often a direct result of the plug-in pistol. It can even happen without entrusting someone to another leader's meeting. Success in a foreign market is dependent on several things. 1. The loyalty and communication between the sponsor and new distributor. 2. Well-translated training materials offering a simple, proven system. And 3. The self-reliance and proactive nature of the startup group in that country. Success does not result from merely finding one good person and plugging him or her into whatever training session happens to be offered locally. However, failure is quite probable. If done properly and taught truthfully, anyone can succeed at, and teach others to succeed at, the business of network marketing. Success doesn't require a myriad of formal meetings, training centers, product seminars, and other hoopla. But here's the problem. As unscrupulous networkers, of whom we spoke earlier, grow logarithmically, they can cause you big problems. Perhaps one of them meets your distributor at a corporate gathering, or at an open meeting, or at a training center, and finds out he or she is sponsored by someone thousands of miles away in another country. With no respect for the structural integrity of this business, the unscrupulous networker will suggest that your distributor would be better off sponsored under a local leader. Why? Because by doing so, he or she can share an office or use the training center or receive close support from someone who knows and understands the local culture. Does a network marketer really need those things to succeed? No, but your distributor could easily be led to believe that he does. A really unethical leader may even offer your distributors kickback money to buy their loyalty away from their original foreign sponsor. Then your recruits, the shining lights of your hopes and dreams for building an international organization, are taught how to stop ordering under their current ID number, which links them to you. Instead, they are taught to sign up under a new number, and the theft is complete. Then your former distributors are taught how to duplicate this process with all of their recruits. This practice has been the single greatest heartbreak for many decent network marketers. And it doesn't just happen to new first-year marketers. 10-year-old veterans are also its victims. And when it occurs in significant numbers, it becomes virtually impossible for a company to trace, find, and return all the lines to their rightful places in the original order. We have a message to corporate leaders who may be reading this chapter. This practice can be stopped, but it must be nipped in the bud. They must come down hard at the very first occurrence on those who make use of such practices. 1 strike, warning. 2 strikes, fine, and 3 strikes, they're out. The company's punishment should make a statement loud and clear. We will not tolerate unethical behavior in our distributor force. Period. End of story. If a company fails to terminate a networker who shows a pattern of unethical behavior, then the precedent is set. The activity will be duplicated and multiplied by the very nature of the business. Once the monster is created, there is no controlling it. The situation we are describing has been experienced firsthand by us and many others, and we can tell you unequivocally that it has caused more heartache than all the other challenges in this business put together. If your company is still young and you have yet to expand internationally, do everything in your power to insist on strictly enforced international policies, including the termination of highly productive distributors if necessary. Once the company shows how serious it is about international policy enforcement, the word will spread. Those who might consider such a practice will think twice, not wanting to risk their termination. But if a company waits too long before sending out this message to its worldwide distributor force, it may be like trying to put the evils back into Pandora's box. Network marketing is a colossal business, and it becomes even bigger when you enter the international scene. Some legends of the business have confided to us that they've lost millions because of pre-launch illegal activities. All that money went directly into the pockets of those who advanced into the country with products and paperwork before its official opening. But what breaks our hearts is that many honest leaders in our industry had their one lead and chance for wealth stolen by such brazen crooks without any company intervention. International recruiting can be difficult, even if you have the financial means to avoid the plug-in pistol altogether and can personally supervise the new market, taking up temporary residence there. If, for any reason, something feels wrong about a prospect or meeting, follow your instincts and say, next. Rob Heyman of Pompano Beach, Florida, had been with his network marketing company about 6 months when the corporate leaders made their first expansion into the Pacific Rim. Rob decided to go for it. Why not? The answer to that question becomes clear, as Rob explains. I spent 5 months in Hong Kong and then went to Taipei. One day I was riding in a taxi and found that the driver spoke English quite well. I invited Eagle back to my apartment to show him our business. My upline associate always taught me that if someone was within 3 feet of you and breathing, try to recruit him. Eagle became very excited and said he knew just the man who could build a huge downline. The only catch was that we had to meet him early that morning, at 2:00 a.m. My instincts screamed, no, but I wanted to build a huge downline. If this guy was so powerful, then I'd go there. Eagle picked me up at 1:30. I wore my best suit. This was a heavy hitter, and I needed to impress him. We drove through several side streets and then down a dark alley. Eagle parked the taxi, and we walked for another block until we came to what looked like a garage with a side door.
Eagle knocked 3 times. Someone opened the door just a crack, and the man and Eagle spoke in Mandarin Chinese. My knowledge of the language at the time consisted of, "Please bring me the check. Where is the bathroom? And are you ambitious?" We were led down a long hallway that resembled the tunnel to a dungeon. Finally, we entered a room that was tastefully decorated with 2 chairs, a beat-up sofa, 1 desk, and nothing else. A man finally entered the room after about 15 minutes. Eagle and the man spoke to each other for about 30 minutes. The only thing I picked up on was that the man's mood went from serious to angry to extremely hostile. I kept asking Eagle, "So is he interested?" Eagle kept saying that we'd talk later. When we finally left and were walking down the alley to the taxi, I noticed Eagle kept turning around every few yards and looking back. After we got in and started driving, I demanded to know what the heck had happened. Eagle confessed that a friend of his had borrowed a large sum of money from this man in an attempt to get a major crime boss from the United States to leave him alone. At this point, I told him to stop the cab. I got out and told him to find another sponsor. The second thing my sponsor told me is to do whatever it takes. I now believe this phrase does have its limitations. Cold recruiting in a foreign market can be extremely difficult, especially for a first-year networker. Since that time, Bob has gone on to build an organization of thousands of people in more than 20 countries, and is currently at the top of the compensation plan in his company. Think what he could have lost had he let that unpleasant experience get the best of him. He should have followed his instincts that told him a 2:00 a.m. meeting is bizarre. Each company has a variety of ways of dealing with the international market. Some go into a foreign country and find a local partner without opening it to their distributors at all. Others allow only those who have achieved a certain level of success to work in the foreign market. Still others require their marketers to meet qualifications all over again in each individual country in which they choose to build. Others have one seamless global plan, which is open to every level of networker within the company. Familiarize yourself with the international expansion policies within your company. Seek the advice of your upline associates about your entrance into the foreign market in your first year. Depending on your situation and the company you've chosen, it could be the best or worst option of your networking career. As a general rule, we discourage newcomers to the industry from dabbling in the foreign market unless the country is their birthplace, or they have close family there, or their best friend in the whole world lives there. The foreign market is extremely difficult, even for an old-timer. It takes a self-starter with absolute loyalty and a proactive approach. And it takes money to keep the lines of communication open. However, if you are new and are determined to enter the international market, then immediately consult with your sponsor or a successful mentor in your upline and begin to brainstorm exactly how you are going to capture your share of this special market. One thing is certain. If you are able to create a solid leg of your organization in a foreign market, it can be one of the most lucrative undertakings in your networking career. But your success will depend on your personal contact and leadership, not on plugging in your key distributors to some local training center. If you thought long-distance recruiting and training was difficult and expensive, international recruiting is more so. Just as you should do with your out-of-state recruits, you must be willing to take charge of your own group. If you can't make a trip to the foreign market to personally supervise your distributors, always the most effective way, then show them everything you can about the business utilizing phone, fax, email, and mail. If English is understood, then the process is simplified somewhat. There are many industry recruiting tools that you can borrow. Our web page, for example, has some basic information about our industry and how to select the right company. It is accessible to anyone in the industry who wants to use it at 2 addresses, www.yarnell.com or www.powermlm.com.
Most major companies and many MLM leaders have their own company website, fax on demand, and other similar technology set up for recruiting and training purposes. Turn to those technologies used in your own company to pull together the best support materials at hand. While building a foreign market is not easy, with the help of modern technology, it is more possible to succeed than ever before. Through the various mediums at your disposal, make as full and complete a presentation to your foreign prospects as if they were sitting in your living room. It's important to recruit proactive distributors in another country. Make sure your foreign prospects understand the importance of assuming a strong leadership position. The right person will be invigorated by this challenge. The wrong person will feel a desperate need to plug in to someone. As always, present all the information available, especially your story, as well as details on the company and product line, timing and trends of the MLM industry in their country, how money is made through leveraged income in your compensation plan. Once you have answered any questions, have a strong player from your upline team follow up with that prospect on your behalf. Unless you have a trusted upline associate or mentor visiting that market, never ever send your prospects to another leader's business briefing. Under these circumstances, with you being thousands of miles away and not part of the same culture, the risk of losing your recruit is simply too great. Let's assume that a prospect in a foreign market has decided to sign up under you and really go for it. Now the hard work begins. You must train this prospect based on the system you know works and teach him or her to do the same. We suggest that you begin by first sending a simple one-page training outline. Your new associate can easily adapt and translate it for that particular market. If a leader in the industry or in your company has a book, manual, or audio tape or videotape training package available and already translated for that market, and it fits with your system, then by all means direct your new group to purchase and utilize that material. But if you have nothing more than the one-page outline, you can still train very effectively. We have also found teleconference calls to be a solid way to build a foreign market. Given the fact that telephone systems are not as advanced in other countries as they are in the United States, this is not always an easy undertaking. But no one said this business would be easy. If you have a leader in that country willing to go to the trouble to set up weekly teleconference calls, take full advantage of it. These weekly calls are a tremendous support mechanism. If language is a barrier and an English-speaking leader is needed on these first calls, use simultaneous translation by someone who is bilingual. But whatever you do, keep control of your new group. Start them out right, keeping the system simple and easily duplicated. Impress on them the importance of using your system if they are to be on your team and supported by you and your upline. Reassure them that you will notify them when upline leaders visit their country, and that eventually all materials will be translated for them. But the value of getting set up early is self-evident. Our message is a simple one. If you unload the plug-in pistol and take back control of training your own recruits, you will elude countless problems that are of growing concern in our industry. Losing distributors to other leaders simply won't happen to you if you avoid the welfare mentality and choose a self-sufficiency mindset. By protecting yourself and your downline from conflicting systems, you can avoid misfires which cripple new distributors. Take charge of your own organization and teach your people a simple system, which they in turn can duplicate with their recruits. Use your upline for support, but don't expect anyone to recruit and train your people for you. Summary. The plug-in pistol fires each time a network marketer signs up a new distributor long distance and then plugs in that recruit to any local training meeting that is available in that particular city. Select the long-distance leader or group to whom you entrust your new frontline associate with the same scrutiny that you would use to choose the daycare provider for your own child. Just as the best of all possible solutions is to raise your own child, so too is it best to train your valued frontline yourself. Plugging in your new distributors to just any citywide training, especially during their formative first year in the business, can create confusion and cause irreparable damage to their careers. Conduct your own training with your long-distance distributors by 1. Faxing them a one-page outline of your system. 2. Answering all their questions over the phone. 3. Getting a commitment that they are willing to follow your system exclusively. As your new associates move through the process, continue their training by 1. Requesting that they purchase a short manual that expands on the one-page outline. 2. Reviewing the short manual with them over the phone. 3. Recommending to them 1 or 2 motivational tools. 4. Offering to coach them once a week. 5. Conducting individual personal strategy training sessions over the phone. 6. Recommending that they order a complete training manual once they prove to be serious business builders. 7. Closing prospects for them and being available and supportive whenever they call. When coaching downline associates, suggest what you want them to do right, rather than reminding them of what they're doing wrong. Only after you have your new distributors solidly on track should you agree to their attendance at citywide meetings in their locale. The first time your family and friends are introduced to network marketing, they should see the presentation in a private setting. When recruiting long distance, stay personally involved with your new prospects. 1. Do a mini presentation by phone, fax, email, or mail. 2. Send your prospects multimedia information and follow it up with a phone conversation. 3. Use the support of your upline associates for closing. If closing your new long-distance prospect is impossible, check out the kind of meetings being held in that area and encourage your prospect to attend only the business presentation portion of the best meeting. The preeminent purpose of network marketing has always been to consume and distribute quality products by word of mouth, while paying network distributors what they are worth, thus enabling them to live quality lives. You can preserve the integrity of our industry by 1. Affiliating only with those companies that will terminate even a big hitter who breaks the rules. 2. By inviting honest people into your organization. And 3. By training your new distributors to respect the structural integrity of our industry. Some unscrupulous marketers attempt to destroy the structural integrity of our industry by unethically inducing other distributors' prospects who attend meetings unaccompanied to join their own downline by implying that they cannot be successful without local support, which, of course, is a myth. The myth of local support implies that distributors are limited to recruiting in their own city, with no potential for global expansion, which is totally contrary to the nature of MLM. The exponential growth of a network marketing organization lies in the distributor's ability to teach others how to become leaders, who in turn can teach others an easily duplicated system for recruiting anywhere in the world. Success in a foreign market is dependent on 1. The loyalty and communication between sponsors and new distributors. 2. Well-translated training materials that offer a simple, proven system that is easily duplicated. 3. The self-reliance of the new startup group in that country. Success does not result from merely finding one good person and then plugging in that recruit to whatever training happens to be offered locally. New recruits in foreign markets are often tempted to switch their allegiance from their original sponsors to local downlines who erroneously claim that training centers, signing bonuses, cultural ties, and other hoopla are critical for success. It is vital that corporate leaders crack down on policy violations before they get out of hand. As a new networker, don't dabble in foreign markets unless the country is your birthplace, you have close family there, or your best friends in the whole world live in that country, or you have a downline who meets these requirements. With the advancement of technology, building an organization in a foreign market is more possible than ever before. The plug-in pistol won't backfire and hurt you if you take charge of your own organization and teach your recruits a simple system that they in turn can teach to their recruits.